award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee Wildcast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching and listening. Got a fun show for you today. Mr. Don King helping me shuffle the cards around the table this morning.
Yes, Jason, thanks for dealing me in. Appreciate that.
Yeah, excited about today's show.
I am too.
First, I want to highlight a few things, right?
Yeah, you bet. We always do a quick shout out to our radio partners. There's a lot of social media and stuff that we're on as well with the podcast, but our radio listeners are very loyal, and we appreciate WOKI in Knoxville especially. News Talk 98.7. We're on there Saturday afternoons, 1:30 to 2. Kind of prime time and Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway, we appreciate WOKI very much. And
I love the Knoxville area. Was just in the area this past week, and it's a fun place to be.
I know. We get a lot of feedback from folks that hear us on that station, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah. And it's always a good thing to visit our e-store, shop.gooutdoorstennessee.com, to pick up the latest gear. Don's got a nice brown and tan, khaki and maybe a colored hat. I like it.
Oh, yeah, and if I turn 180 degrees around, you'll be able to see the little state emblem on the back.
Let's look at it. There you go. Maybe you could see that. Anyway, yeah, if you're listening, it's a cool hat.
Yeah, it is. And it's great for the cold weather, too. So
yeah, it's a full body hat. We got some of the mesh backs. You can get those online, too. A lot to choose from on our e-store.
Yep. Check out the store. Besides the caps, there's other stuff, too, that make great stocking stuffers and prime Christmas gifts there.
There you go. Good plug there, Don.
Yeah.
Well, it's always fun to have Mr. Jason Holland in the studio.
Hey.
He is back again for a fun episode today. I'm excited.
Today's going to be a good time. Well, we always have fun.
We always do.
Hopefully everybody listening gets to enjoy it as much as we do, but all I know is when I walk out of here, I'm still smiling. So it is one of my favorite things to do.
Well, it's been a while since you've been in, but Thanksgiving was a few weeks ago. Did you have a happy one?
I did. Just like everybody else, I ate too much and then griped all night long about how much I ate to only go back into the kitchen like around 8:30 or 9 o'clock and do it all again.
Right.
To wake up on Friday miserable,
leftovers.
Say I'm never going to eat that much again, and then roll right back into it. For breakfast and then apparently for lunch. I don't know about you, but we got, I don't know, give or take 15 or so that come over for Thanksgiving. Yet we cook for 150 to 200.
Right.
Somewhere in that range. And so being frugal, we're going to eat on that until either it's all gone or it spoils. But my wife is not cooking for a solid 7 days after Thanksgiving.
They make freezer bags. You can freeze it.
We could.
Yeah.
We could. That requires way too much planning and forethought. We're just going to eat till we throw up, puke and rally and go right back in and do it all over. This is the Holland tradition. This is what we do.
Shortly after I got married, Jason, my wife grew up in a family with 6 kids, and she did a lot of the cooking because she was the oldest, one of the oldest, second oldest. But anyway, she was tasked with a lot of the cooking. And so I come home shortly after we got married. She's fixed this really nice meal, and it's like there's food everywhere. And I'm thinking, I said, "Who's coming over?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, There's enough food here for 8 people. What is up with this? Well, that's just the way I cook. That's the way I grew up, because I had to cook for a lot. I said, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, you did a
couple of days worth.
Yeah. Well, you did very smart. You didn't do something I probably would have done, which would have been either making a snide remark or about how much I just wasted or something, and then she never would have cooked again. See, this is where you have wisdom.
Yeah.
This is where you have an idiot. This is what would have happened. You played it very well. I don't know I would have played it that calm. I probably should have. Now we had a great time. Thanksgiving is probably like everybody else. It's one of our favorite times. We'll get to come together as a family and just make it a priority. And of course, everybody loves to get all fat and happy. And then they turn around and go shopping on Friday, and it's just it's a big ordeal.
Busy.
Yeah, it was a great time.
But it's a good time. Yeah, for sure. Well, today we're talking about rods.
We are talking
all about rods, right?
Everything about fishing rod. And so we've done obviously quite a few shows, and we always kind of hit a little bit on the rod, and it's great. But today we're going to dive really, really deep into fishing rod. I mean, really, really deep. And not so deep that it's boring, but the goal is to, one, hopefully give everybody listening something they hadn't heard about or another way to do it. But more importantly, really try to book in what it means when you see a fishing rod, when you read the label, obviously just how long it is, but really all the other pieces that go with it. So we're going to try to make it very informative, but not overwhelming, not get too far in the weeds and then just lose everybody. And then we're also talking about, we're going into winter, cleaning the rod, what's a good way to clean it, way to store it, and just high level on really what to do with the rod when, you may be more focusing on deer hunting or duck hunting at this point. Yeah.
Well, when you walk into a store, it's not just 5 or 6 rods there. There's sometimes hundreds of some of these bigger outdoor stores. So there's a reason there are so many, and there's a reason there's all those little numbers and information's on the side. So. Yeah,
there really is. I mean, it can be way overwhelming, especially if you're just getting the fishing, only been fishing for a little while. You walk in, you just pick any big box store, local retailer, it doesn't matter, and there is rods everywhere. And to your point, yes, there's a reason why. But more importantly, the main thing is having a good grasp of what they do. Like, for instance, when we talked about crankbaits, right? We talked about what it does, what to look for, and really know what you're getting. Well, it's the same thing with fishing rods. We can spend hours going over the nuances of fishing rods, which we don't have time for, and nobody would be listening by the time we got done other than the diehards. But there is some parameters that will help, hopefully from this show, help people make some better choices. So with that, we're going to dive in. Is that good with you guys?
Yeah, do it. Let's go.
All right, so everything we'll talk about today is pretty much going to be around the freshwater fishing. So we're not going to get any type of saltwater, but we're going to talk just pretty much freshwater fishing rods. Mainly on the bass side of things, but what we're going to talk about will encompass bass fishing, panfish, catfish. Doesn't really matter, but as long as it's freshwater is really what we're going to talk about. Okay. And there's 2 types of fishing rods. And we're going to get really basic, and then we'll get a little bit deeper. Of course, you have a bait casting, and you have a spinning. These are the 2 type of rods that are out there. Just as a good rule of thumb, if you're throwing a lighter bait, you want to throw a spinning rod. If you're throwing a heavier bait or more power fishing, right, you're chunking and winding, as the term goes, typically you're going to want to use a bait caster. Now, I will tell you, learning to throw a bait caster is much more difficult than a spinning rod setup.
I spent many days in the parking lot in my apartment in college casting those little rubber deals out in the,
little rubber triangles. Yeah.
Practicing.
Yeah, I've got my 8-year-old son. He takes his little spinning rod and he goes out there and throws it around and breaks it off and hits windows and dogs and everything else.
Yeah, it wasn't until college till I picked up a bait caster, and practice is important with those things.
It is. It takes. Now, what's really cool is just where technology has come back from when I started. You take 25 plus years ago. I'm giving my age now, but the technology has ramped up considerably in that amount of time, and so the learning curve has dramatically shrank. And now they even have electronic reels today that you can't backlash it.
Oh, yeah.
You can take and just throw it up against the wall, and it will not backlash. So
wow.
Technology has gotten better, and so it's shortened that curve a little bit. But most people, when they're younger, starting into fishing, or if you're older and not into fishing, most people start with a spinning rod because it's really hard to mess it up. It doesn't take a lot of skill to cast it. They work great if you're throwing smaller weights, smaller worms, smaller crankbaits. It allows to get a smaller bait out further. Again, going to bait casters, heavier weights, and you have more power typically with those. So that's about high level on the fishing rods. So today we're going to I'm a big fan of casting fishing rods. If you listen to this show or watch this show at all, you know that. A couple reasons why. First and foremost, they're the only rod that's 100% made here. To me, that's very, very important, and to a lot of people in the fishing community.
Don't have to worry about those cargo ships sitting in the
you don't. I mean, that's what's
the port.
And it's. I know we say that jokingly, but it really has, because most of that stuff comes from overseas. The Cashin brand has been able to grow leaps and bounds. Because they're the only one that had product for a long time. So not only does that help from a supply and stocking standpoint, but I'm a big fan of employing people here, making products best as much as we can here, and supporting the country. And so that's what drew me to the rod initially. And then of course they are carbon fiber, extremely light, extremely durable. again,
good product.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of cash and fishing rods. And so today, what we're going to talk about for guys that are watching, we're going to be using cash and fishing rods. But for guys that are listening, just so you know, that's the rod that we're talking about. So we're going to jump straight into the spinning rod. So there is specific reels. If you guys are watching, I just hung up on my mic. That was a lot of fun and really embarrassing.
Backlashed on your on your headset.
These work better on boats than they do in studios.
Yeah, I'm the only guy that's ever backlashed on a microphone. Todd, make sure you make a note of that. We'll put that in the comments somewhere because that's going to be a lot of fun to make fun of me on that. But a spinning rod, the line guides are facing downward.
And the different sizes.
There are. So let me back up real quick. There is sizes from a 6 foot long, basically up to an 8 foot long on rods and for freshwater. They make some longer if you're surf fishing and different things. But really 6 foot to 8 foot is the length of the rod. I will tell you, most rods, when you start off and, hey, I've got to go buy one fishing rod, you want to buy one that's either 6 foot, 6 inches up to 7 foot. That's really going to be your workhorse, your best all around length of a fishing rod. We'll just stay there real quick. And so when you're looking at it, a fishing rod has a power and it has an action. Very simply, the power means is how much power does the rod have, meaning how strong is that rod, and you will match up how strong it is or how the power is compared to what type of fishing that you're going to do. If you're going middle of the road and you're looking, just say I'm going to buy 1 or 2 rods, you want to buy a rod that is medium heavy on the power side. It's all around. You can throw pretty much most of anything in that medium heavy range. And a spinning rod, let me back up. Medium heavy on your bait casters, on your spinning rod, you probably want to go with a medium. All right, a medium is going to give you the most in a spinning rod because, again, you're going to throw typically smaller baits, lighter baits with a spinning rod. So on your spinning rod, get a medium power. On your bait casters, get a medium heavy.
Okay.
6'6" to 7 foot long. Okay. That's high level. We'll keep it very simple and keep it there. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is the action of the rod, right? You got the power, which is the backbone, and then you have your action. So your action is going to be at the tip of the rod. And they have anywhere from fast, mod fast, to a moderate. And all that means is how much bend, and we're going to keep it really simple, how much bend that the rod has in it. All right, so you got your power's your backbone, and your action. And most of the action you're going to want is either going to be a moderate fast or a fast action, which means the tip of the rod is going to fast. It's going to bend very fast.
Bend easier, I guess you could say.
Correct. Great way to put it. So it's going to bend much easier if you had a moderate action, and it's not going to bend as easy.
Yeah.
And really, that goes along with what exactly that you're fishing for. Again, on a spinning rod, we want a medium power, and we want a fast action because, again, these are smaller, lighter baits. Crappie fishing, same type of deal, right? You want a lot of bend in that rod. You want a lot of give, and so you're not out there fishing with a telephone pole trying to catch.
Hey, it makes it more fun, too, on those smaller fish.
It does. I mean, you can even go down to they call them a micro light, which is a super, it's a wet noodle. You don't have much power to fight them, horse them in, but there's a ton of fun. Yeah. You catch a small to medium-sized bluegill on an ultralight, yeah, you're having the time of your life. It is a great fight on a real small fish. So that is a spinning rod. We talked about power. We talked about action. And so, again, lighter baits, smaller baits. Now,
and this so people know, if you see one, the eyes on the if you're looking at them, the eyes are different sizes, right?
Correct.
On a spinning reel.
On a spinning rod, the eye is going to be much longer, and they're going to be facing down. Now, I have seen people that just start fishing a spinning rod and reel, and they'll actually have it turn backwards. And so they're literally the reel. When you fish a spinning rod, the reel will be hanging underneath the rod.
Yep.
So just if you have it and you're doing it the other way, feel free to do it. You're just doing it wrong. So
it's just backwards.
It's just backwards, and we're probably going to laugh at you. But
gravity's working against you.
Yeah, you're working way too hard.
Holding that thing on top. Yeah.
Yeah, so that on a spinning rod and reel, the reel will be underneath the rod, and the line guides will be facing toward the dirt. All right, so everything's pointing downward. So For those that don't know.
And this kind of varies a little, or goes off track just a hair. But the reel, do you reel with your right or your left?
So
Does it matter?
It's really personal preference. So when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm right-handed. I want to reel with my right hand. And so that's how when I was fishing a spinning rod and reel, I moved the handle to the right side. Mm-hmm. Well, for whatever reason, I started watching all the other professional fishermen, and they're all right-handed, yet they're reeling with their left hand. Excuse me. I had it backwards. I had it in left hand, reeling right-handed, but these guys have it in the right hand, they're reeling it left-handed. I was like, why are they doing that? But when you think about it, when you're casting, if you're right-handed, you can cast with your right hand, and then you don't have to transition from your right hand to your left hand to reel right-handed.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, that makes more sense from an efficiency standpoint, so that's why they're doing it. When I made the switch, I looked like it was ugly. I mean, ugly how bad it was. Just because everything was backwards. But once I kind of got in the rhythm, it does make more sense if you're looking from a just time savings and not moving back and forth. I can cast it now with my right hand.
Your strong arm setting the hook.
You got it. I'm casting my right hand. I'm setting my hook with the right hand, and I'm reeling with my left hand. I don't have to transition that rod back and forth.
And I think of it like baseball too. If you're right-handed, you're going to throw with your right hand. If you're looking for accuracy with your right hand in where you're casting, that can play.
I like that.
Toward that.
Yeah,
too.
it makes a lot of sense. And so, going back over to the bait casting side, so I started off, casting right-handed and reeling right-handed. Everything was fine, and then I started seeing all these guys that were when they're flipping. And all I mean flipping is they're just doing a little short 5 or 10 foot flip of the bait, bouncing it a couple times and reeling it back in. Well, they were reeling with their left hand because it's the same concept. They could go and pitch the bait with the right hand, and they never have to move the rod back and forth. So I tried that for a while and said, you know what, I'm not doing that. I've learned how to reel left-handed on a spinning rod. That's it.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of guys that will, when they're pitching and flipping, they will reel left-handed. So that was a very long-winded answer to say, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Just don't turn the rod upside down.
Just
don't put it on top.
Yeah, don't use your spinning rod upside down. If you're looking at the reel when you're reeling it, you got it upside down. So just go Google it, see a picture, and that'll all make sense.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll keep the roll rolling because we still got a lot to get to. All right, on a bait casting rod.
Small eyes all the way up, right?
Yeah, so another benefit, and I'm trying not to hook myself and make myself look stupid again on camera. On a bait casting rod, a couple things are different. One, the line guides are up. So when you're looking at it, you'll be looking at the line guides on a spinning rod. They were upside down or facing the ground. These are facing up to the sky. You have a much smaller line guide compared to a spinning rod. Now, Cashin actually uses what's called micro guides, which makes it even smaller. The question always comes up is why would you use micro guides opposed to just the normal fishing line guides that have always seen on fishing rods? Well, when you cast a bait, your line leaves your reel and it's going through the line guides. Well, if you slow it down and look at it in slow motion, it's not going straight through those guides. It's actually going completely around. It's making a full circle around those guides. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at them, typically they will start larger and they will get a little bit smaller as it goes down the rod, and you're just compressing. That line is getting smaller, compressed as it spins. Well, when you go to a micro guide, it takes less energy for that line to go all the way around a line guide. And so now you're making a much smaller, tighter loop as it's going through the line guide. So when you think about it from a geometry standpoint, you're not getting as much friction. You don't have as much distance of the line to go around the line guide. So you're squeezing it, which gives you additional casting distance. There's studies out there, and I don't know the specifics, so I won't even act like I do, but it's anywhere between 15 to 20% additional casting length that you get by using a micro guide. And so on the Cash and Fishing rods, all of their Icon series use micro guides. Again, it's the whole system, a very, very sensitive rod, and you get additional casting distance with the micro guides. So Cashin also makes some other rods. Their new Core series, their new CK series do not use micro guides. If there's that guy out there that says, hey, you know what, I hear you. I just don't like them.
Yeah.
No problem. They have different series depending on what you want, but their mainstay rod, which is their Icon, does have micro guides.
Gotcha.
So, staying with the casting rod, typically these rods are going to be a little bit longer. And they make them all lengths from 6 foot to 8 foot, but typically, if you're going to go out and buy a casting rod, you want that around 7 footer. You want a medium heavy, and you want a fast action. That's going to cover most of the gamut of any fishing that you want to do. Again, if you're using a bait caster, most of the time, a lot of the time you're going to be using bottom baits or bottom hopping baits. There's a lot of different terms for it. Basically, something on the bottom you're dragging or you're hopping. You're pulling it through rocks, brush, weeds, mud, whatever. And so you want a little bit stronger rod, and a bait caster gives you that additional leverage and additional backbone. You can't throw as light of baits, so you can't take like a 1/16 crappie jig and throw it on a bait caster. You can, you just won't get any distance, and you're going to be miserable. It's just not
probably going to backlash or something.
Yeah, it's just not made for that. In that case, grab a spinning rod. But bait castings, great for crankbaits, bottom hopping baits, spinner baits. The list goes on and on. So they're very versatile. Again, get that. My personal opinion would be get a 7 foot medium heavy fast action rod. You're golden. In rods, they make all different types of rods lengthwise, but they also make very technique-specific rods. So you'll have rods that are tweaked just a little bit for a certain type of bait. For instance, Cashin makes a chatterbait rod. So a chatterbait is a vibrating jig that's very, very popular. A lot of people are replacing spinnerbaits, are throwing them as much or more than spinnerbaits. Well, they make a rod designed specifically for chatterbait. It's got a good backbone, but it actually has a more parabolic bend, so it allows the fish to take the bait and the rod to load up before he actually sets the hook. Parabolic bend, it's a deep word. Feel free to Google it. All that means is where the bend is in the rod and then to where it stops. Where it stops bending, all right, that is your curve or your parabolic bend. And all that means is how much action is in the rod until it actually gets into the power side.
The more bend, the more power?
No, it's the other way around.
Opposite.
Less bend, more power.
Okay.
Now, do you think, oh, well, I don't want no bend, or I don't want a super stiff rod. I can jerk them out of anything. Well, the problem is that you're going to jerk it right out of their mouth, right? That hook needs to drive into, they need to bite it, and you need to drive the hook home, and that bend will help, it will help you get that good hook penetration and setting in their mouth, but you also have the power on the backside to drag them out. So you need a combination of both. Back years ago when the flipping stick first came out, I mean, it was basically a broomstick. I mean, it was just a solid stick. Like, oh, well, I don't want any bend. Well, what happens? Two things. One, you don't get a good hook set. Number two, you lose the rubber band effect. This is for easy conversation, right? You need that rod to give. That is your rubber band. As they fight and pull, you want that rod working and that consistent pull.
You got to let them go a little bit.
You do. And so if not, you're going to wind up, if it's just real stiff, you're going to rip it right out of their lip. I mean, their lips are, and their mouths are pretty thin. And if you're just straight dragging it, then you're going to rip a hole and it's going to come out.
Right.
And you're going to lose that fighting the fish action, and ultimately that's the whole part, and that's the fun part, right? It's the fight, and I don't want to take them and drag them in. So anyway, we're getting a little off topic, but parabolic bend it's really just the bend of the rod allows you to work it. All right, so oh boy, Todd, you're gonna have to edit that out. I'm hitting the ceiling now. I'm just.
Well, time is crunching here. So
are we really that fast?
Yeah, we're moving.
I got to quit talking so much.
What about let's talk about storage and covers. You brought a cover there? Or?
I did. So for guys that are watching, this is a rod cover. It's woven fabric. That's the wrong word. Excuse me. It's woven. I don't even know what you call it. Just
kind of like a plastic type material.
Yeah, there you go. It's woven something. And basically what that does is it goes over the rod. Not only does it protect the rod, so great example is if you got 3 or 4 rods and you're going to the lake, you put a rod cover on it, keeps them from banging. More importantly is it keeps that line from tangling on all the other line guides in your other rods. So rod covers are a great investment. Cashin actually makes this one. There's another company called Upgrade Fishing. They're based out of Arizona. Make a fantastic rod cover. They make them in spinning, make them in casting, and make them all different lengths and colors and all kinds of fun stuff. They're a very, very cheap investment to make your life easier.
Yeah.
There's another company out there called Cal Coast Fishing. Cal Coast Fishing. to make a thing called a rod mule. All it is, it's a way to carry multiple rods, combine them all into one, and gives you a strap for guys that are fishing from the bank, carrying several rods, or co-anglers, guys that are moving from boat to boat, maybe tournament fishing, or if you're just going with your buddies and you got several rods you're taking. Go check out the Rod Mule. I'm not endorsed by any. I'm not selling. And I get zero money telling you. They're just really great tools to make it much easier in regards to organizing and carrying your rods and protecting them.
Cool name, too.
Yeah, Cal Coast Fishing. Obviously, they're from California, West Coast. Other thing we'll talk about real quick is cleaning. So we're going into that time of year where once deer season, duck season's over, you're going to have that really cold spell. Typically in January, I do a lot of tackle organization, make some jigs, all that kind of stuff. But I will take that time to clean my rods and reels. Not going to go into how you break down and clean a reel. Go YouTube that. Really easy to do. Super easy process. Not hard. Keep them clean. Keep them greased and oiled up. But when it comes to your rod, so you want to get a soft nylon brush. I just use an old toothbrush is what I use. You can use just normal soap and water. There's also a product out there called Reel Magic. It's designed for reels to put on your line to keep it more supple and not just get so brittle.
Right.
It's a great way to clean your rod too. And so all I do is here's what I do is I've got a rack or a mount for cleaning my rifle. Right. And so I think I paid $15 for it at Walmart. I take my rod and put it on there and kind of clamp it down. And it's on my little workbench, and I'll just go and I'll take that spray and spray the rod. And so I take my toothbrush and rub on both sides of the line guide, and do the same thing with the reel seat. Just clean it all off. Come back with a lint-free rack. Another quick trick: take a Q-tip. Take a Q-tip and stick it in each guide.
Oh yeah.
All right, rub it around, and if any of that cotton comes off, it means you got a nick in the ceramic of your guide. And what will happen is that nick will wind up hitting your line, and you'll wind up breaking a lot. So it's a great way to see if all the inserts of your line guides are in good shape. So just take a Q-tip, run through there, and if it hangs up, you're like, all right, I'm gonna have to replace that eye. So it's a great way to do it. Keep them clean, and now's the perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Good tips.
Yeah,
We
man.
have to do a show on replacing those guides if you have to.
Yes, I will recommend you take it to somebody.
Okay, we're not going to do it here.
You know what? I am not good enough to do it. But one thing I will, if you've got cork handles, get some rubbing alcohol and some cotton balls, rub it, make it look really good. Make sure you come back on and moisturize it afterwards. If not, it'll crack it. But
Condition, yeah.
again, you can check out a lot of these cleaning tips on YouTube, TWRA, and different places. So, hey, thanks for having me. I always love coming to the show. Don't forget the three main things: your faith, your family, and your fishing. Check me out, Jason Holland Fishing, on all the social media platforms. Love to connect with you. And again, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
It's always fun having you here. You give us a lot of information and a lot of stuff to take home and think about. So
There you go. I'm doing my job then.
Yeah, exactly.
Don, thank you.
Sure enough.
And this is Tennessee Wildcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee Wildcast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.